I'm Lara and I'm one of the directors of the Tiny House Company. I studied architecture, Masters of Architecture at UQ, and then I went on to do a carpentry apprenticeship, and I'm now a carpenter. I was very much into art and design, so it was suggested that architecture might be a good way to combine science and art, and I really loved that degree. After I finished that, I ended up working in an office for a while, and during the degree as well, and realised that my day-to-day was mostly spent clicking away on a mouse, designing buildings that often didn't even get built, and I didn't feel for me that I was getting the satisfaction from my job that I wanted. I worked as an architect for a few years, and then I decided to get to know how buildings are built, and then decided I wanted to do a carpentry apprenticeship and wanted to learn how to build houses hands-on. It's a 4-year-long apprenticeship. Every day you're working on site with, in my case, skilled carpenters and tradies. And I think that my Masters of Architecture also helped back up what I was learning on site. So my understanding about how to design a building and what architects are thinking when they're designing a building helped while I was on site building the buildings, and vice versa. So I think the two things are quite complementary. So the day-to-day of an apprentice carpenter is everything from the ground up in building a house. So we set out the building, footings, concreting, we lay the joists down, the bearers, the flooring, we put walls up, we line them. Since doing the carpentry apprenticeship, I've had the privilege of receiving a couple of fantastic awards, one from the TAFE, actually 2 from TAFE, and I won Apprentice of the Year 1 year, and I've won the Under 30 Women in Construction HIA Award. So it's proven that it was a good choice for me to combine those 2 sets of study. So just before I finished my 4-year carpentry apprenticeship, I was approached by a friend who was interested in the idea of getting a tiny house built. I discussed it with Greg, who I did my carpentry apprenticeship with, and also my boyfriend. And we spoke about the idea of teaming up and building a tiny house to test our skills in design and build. A lot of people do ask us about what is a tiny house. In our case, we are building tiny houses on trailers. So some have been described as fancy caravans. It's an interesting project. It's a design challenge to pack a whole house into 18 square metres. But it's also a build challenge to make it all work together and to be able to be towed on the road registerable, and be a beautiful home as well. A tiny house like this one would be 1/13 the size of an average Australian home, which is pretty crazy because it's got everything that you need to live in. And as a matter of fact, I lived in one the same size as this with my partner and my little daughter for 2 years, happily. When we finished our first tiny house and set it up and had people walking through it and saw the interest build and the inquiries, I think that was a really proud moment for us. We'd proven that we, as Australians, should be rethinking the way we do housing and creating more diversity in our housing stock. And the interest that came from that little example just proved that to us and to the wider industry, that we've got to create more options for people in terms of how they live, and I think that was a proud moment.